So my TikTok about not being able to afford to live got very popular, and at this point, all of the comments are just like people being mean. Honestly, people like, oh, deal with it. Oh, you only have to work 40 hours a week. You don't even have it that bad. And like, people really just assuming like that I'm lazy, and I am really amazed. I'm amazed, and I feel so bad for these people. Like, that's why I'm not taking it to heart. That's why it's not offensive to me whatsoever, because all of these people have been raised or conditioned to believe that this isn't normal, that they should be working 70 hours a week, you know? And like, that's awful. I am so sorry to all of you who are working harder than I am and still not making it. And I am so sorry that the way that you need to cope with that is to be mean to other people. Like, if that's what you gotta do to get through life, you do you. You know? Like, if commenting mean things on young people's TikToks, if that makes you happy when the rest of your life sucks, like, go for it, I guess. But just know that, like, I am truly, really sorry. I feel really bad for you that this is not only what's happening in your life, but, like, you think that you deserve it. And I just hope that there's a day where everyone just gets to be happy and doesn't have to shit all over everybody else, you know? Just some thoughts.
Alright guys, so gotta react to this video of this Gen Z woman going viral because she can't handle working a 9 to 5. Okay, now this is a part of a trend of women, young women, Gen Z women, taken to TikTok and social media to break down, to have existential crises in front of millions of people over the fact that they don't like being an adult, right? They don't like actually having to get up and go to work every day. Now, here's the thing. I think that this would be worse if it was young men doing this, right? But since it's young women doing it, I don't think that is that bad. I think it really is just a sign that, you know, feminism has failed a lot of young women in today's modern society, where we push women to go into the workforce instead of adhering to what I believe is the natural role of women, which is to try to be wives and mothers, right? And not to worry about working so much. But hey, you know, this is what we're doing, right? We're pushing women to work, to, you know, be the provider, to take care of themselves, and to not need no man, right? And unfortunately, some women just seem to not be able to handle that responsibility. So I want to react to this video because honestly, I think that this is more sad than anything else. But I do think that it's an issue that is progressively getting bigger. And I think that you're seeing a lot of these women go to the internet and to express themselves because clearly there's some issues with this. And I'm not going to try to be mean to this young girl. I'm actually going to try to give her some practical advice because I believe that she's probably young and very, very, very naive. I mean, liberal, right? Liberal and progressive. So I think where she's coming from here is she thinks that she shouldn't have to work 40 hours a week in order to survive from a socialist perspective, aka she should get things for free, right? She should have a roof over her head and all her basic necessities provided for without having to work. Again, that's what a lot of these young socialists think. And I think that's part of the reason why you're having this trend of people that are taking to TikTok to boohoo whine and complain about having to work because they don't believe from an ideological perspective that they should have to work to get the basics taken care of. They think that everybody else should have to work to pay taxes, and those taxes should be used to provide the necessities for them, right? Because they should not have to work if they don't want to, just to get by. And that's simply not how the world works. It has never worked that way, and it will never work that way. And I think that is a reality check that a lot of these young people need, okay? So without further ado, let's get into it.
Why is it that I have to work 40 hours a week just so I can have a place to live? 40 hours a week makes me $2,000 a month, and my rent is $1,660.
Well, that's your main problem right there. Okay, that's your main problem. You make $2,000 a month. That's only about $340 left over for all your other expenses, including internet, phone bill, cable, electricity, car payment, insurance. Yeah, the math ain't mathing, right? The math is not mathing. And I'm assuming that this is after tax, right? I'm assuming that is, I hope it's after tax, okay? Because if this is pre-tax, boy, you definitely have reasons to break down in tears on camera because there's a problem, right? But this is why I think that they should teach financial literacy in school, because people should know coming out of high school that this doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense to take on a rent of $1,600 a month if you only make $2,000 a month, right? It might have been better for this young woman to make a smarter decision, like get roommates to try to lower that rent, or preferably really to stay with her parents, right? I think one of the things that we need to normalize, which I think a lot of other cultures have normalized that do come over here to the United States, particularly like immigrant families, is kids staying at home with their parents even in their 20s, right? I know it's something that we have stigmatized, and you're like, oh, you live at home in your mother's basement. I don't think there's anything wrong with people in their 20s living at home with their family, as long as they're working, right? If you're working, if you're saving money, trying to buy a house, trying to move up, with the goal of starting a family, and you're living at home to save money, not because you're a bum and you want to sit around and play video games and smoke weed all day, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? So I think that's something that we need to bring back in our society, which is normalizing kids staying home with the parents. In fact, when you talk about these immigrant families that come over here, one of the ways that they kind of keep their kids kind of in the culture, right? Still traditional, still conservative, is actually keeping them in the house, right? Even when they go to college, they come back home, they get a job, they stay at the house, they save money, and then they eventually get married, right? And the family helps facilitate the marriage, and that's kind of how they live. And it works, right? It actually works very well, okay? So I personally think that the main problem here is that there's a lack of financial literacy. There's a problem with rent being $1,600 and you're only making $2,000 a month. That is something that you should have never signed up for in the first place.
So I work 40 hours a week so I can have a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, you need to find a roommate fast, right? Get somebody to occupy that second bedroom.
And an extra $300 a month. Like, it doesn't cover my phone, internet, food, So not only do I not have any extra money, but just working makes me so exhausted that I don't have time either. Like, I get off work at 5:30, come home, and I'm just so tired. I'm so tired that, like, anything that I need to do outside of work, I then just push off to, like, the weekend. And I'm like, I'm just too tired to do this after work. I'll wait until Saturday.
Well, see, this is where I don't necessarily feel so bad, because it's like, well, hey, this is kind of what you signed up for. It sucks, but if you're making only $2,000 a month and rent is $1,660, then you got to get a part-time job, right? You have to get a part-time job, maybe do some Uber. That's what I did, okay? Even though I wasn't necessarily in that situation coming out of college, but, I was Ubering, after work. I was Ubering on weekends. I would, Uber from like 5 p.m. to 3 or 4 a.m. at night on the weekends, on Fridays and Saturdays, to make that extra money. That's just what you got to do as an adult. Especially, again, if you are struggling to get by, right? That's just what it is. So, it sucks going to work and working a 9 to 5, but in your situation, you just don't have a choice but to work harder, right? That's just what it is. Either that, or you need to find a man, right? You need to find a man to have dual income to help you out, or you need to find a roommate or maybe move back home with your parents, right? But you have plenty of time to make extra money, okay? And I only can feel so bad for people who don't want to put in that extra work to survive, because that's what it comes down to. You got to put in that extra work to survive. It is what it is.
So then I end up with so much to do on the weekend that ends up having to be split into 2 days. So I have to do stuff on both Saturday and Sunday. So then I don't get a day off. I don't get a day to relax. I don't get to decompress. So it is really like working 7 days a week.
Yeah, well, hey, that's my life every single day. Now, I understand that, everybody's not like that, and I don't expect everybody to be like that. But, this is the life of a lot of people, right? Some people do have to do that, and, it is what it is. It's not a pleasant thing to do, but this is what you got to do to survive, okay? This is what you got to do to survive. Now, here's the thing. I don't think a lot of women are built for this, right? I don't think that a lot of women are built to work like a man does 7 days a week, right? To always be on the grind, to always be working. I don't think a lot of women are built like that. And I think, putting women in these situations where you are expecting them to do this, I think is setting them up for failure. And I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing a lot more of this happening, where you have these women that are having these existential crises over having to just, survive, right? Because I don't think that a lot of these women are built to survive on their own, right? Working their own job and paying the bills and, being a boss babe, right? I don't think a lot of women are built that way, okay? And clearly she's having some issues trying to do that.
Constantly. And I don't want to do that anymore, right? Like, I don't care how poor and miserable I would have to be, but I literally can't have a place to live without this, Like, I don't know what to do. I'm not made for this.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Why is that so hard for a lot of women to admit, right? Hey, it's just not made to do all this, okay? And again, I think this is why you're seeing a lot of women struggling, right? They're struggling with having to essentially be a man, right? Having to take on a role as a man. Even as a single woman living out on your own, you're still taking on that role as a provider, right? You have to provide for yourself. You have to provide for the house. And a lot of these women probably got a ton of pets and stuff like that, right? Their kids, okay? So they got to feed those mouths. That's an expense. And a lot of them don't even think about it before they, they take on these pets and stuff like that. There's so many women that I've met that, are single and they're living by themselves and they got a bunch of pets and stuff like that. And they're not in the most financially stable positions. Like, well, why do you have a pet if you're struggling to get by, right? If you're living from paycheck to paycheck and you're a single woman, why do you have a pet? I don't understand. But a lot of them got pets, okay? So they're taking on extra mouths to feed while they're struggling financially. Now, the pet will eat before they eat, right? They'll be eating oodles and noodles, and the pet will be eating like, raw food and stuff like that. Again, it's fascinating stuff.
I don't have the money, time, or energy to enjoy my life outside of work, and I don't know what to do about it anymore, I'm so tired.
Yeah, so again, practical advice. If your parents are still around, if you have a good relationship with them, I hope they're still around. I hope that you do have a good relationship with them. You should move back in with them, okay? Get a job there if they're not in the area. Focus on work and then focus on getting yourself together mentally, right? And, try to make yourself a woman that will be a good wife, right? Focus on trying to be a good wife so therefore you can find a good man, and therefore you don't have to take on this type of responsibility by yourself. You can have a family and you can do things that I think that you're more naturally meant to do, right? She says that I'm not made for this. Well, there's a natural role that women are made for that I think that you could do. If you make the right decision. But if you're not going to do that, you got to get some roommates, or you need to get a part-time job, right? That's just it. It is what it is. I mean, feminism has told us that women can do the same thing men can do, including work long hours and to provide for a household and things like that. Okay, well, hey, you got two choices. You can do that, get a roommate, you're probably still gonna need to work more, okay, or try to get a better job or something. You're gonna still have to work more, make more money, regardless of whether or not you get a roommate. But you know, whatever you do, your options really are to get some roommates, okay, make more money, which is to continue to go down the route that you're going on. That's what you're gonna have to do, or you have to go down a different route where you take a more traditional role, right? Maybe go stay home with your parents, you know, rebuild yourself, get yourself together mentally, and, you know, try to be a more traditional woman, put yourself in a position where you can find a good man to take care of you and to share, you know, these responsibilities. And I think you'll live a much happier life. But hey, you know, some people say that I'm a misogynist for thinking that way, that I'm sexist for thinking that way. I don't know. I think that I'm just using my common sense. But who knows? Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.